Okay, maybe we started streaming. It looks like. Let me double check because I was having a lot of issues on just getting this into work. Yeah, I think it's working. Let me double check. Oh yeah, it works well. Okay, perfect. Wow, we are live. Wow. Yeah, I'm pretty excited because so this is going to be the first live of this channel. Never had a live in this channel before, but I had a YouTube channel some years ago, so I'm not new to lives, but I think I have been so much time. So I was sure I remember things, but apparently so many things have changed. So yeah, welcome. I don't, to be honest, I don't expect. I would be very surprised even if a single person shows up today, because this is such a nerdy channel. So not expecting much engagement. So I will try to keep it as a general video, maybe a little more open, a little more open to discussion. And if anybody shows up and we want to discuss about something, uh, that's going to be great. Actually, I already see a person. So, sorry, I need my setup is very weird. Sundang, hello, welcome, welcome. Can you confirm that the audio is good if you're if it works? I hope so. And yeah, welcome. So I think what I can start doing is that I want to first say a little about what we will do with all these formats, because I came back after a quite long time, actually about 2 years. Okay, you can hear me fine. Great. There is also a little crown close to you. I don't know what is that, but I don't know if it's because you're number one, but congratulations. By the way, I use YouTube a lot, but I don't know all the things about chat, super chat, all these things. So, yeah, if I look confused, it's just because I am confused. And you can also appreciate how I set up the lighting in in the house. Don't look at it too much. So, something that I wanted to discuss about is I have, by the way, if you have any question or you want to discuss about anything, just let me know. So at the moment, we have quite a lot of different formats, and I want to use this excuse to test something because I connected my iPad to the OBS, which is the software. So I think if I draw, ooh, yes, you should be able to see what I'm doing. So yeah, I will try to explain very quickly why we have different formats and what I'm going to do with that. Yes, just let me erase whatever I've done. So at the moment, we have, let's say, this YouTube channel, and on YouTube, I think we will have pretty much two main formats. The first one is the classical video, which doesn't start with C. By the way, I'm preparing a new video, and I was so focused on what I was explaining that at a certain point I completely forgot the alphabet. I was like H, A, B, D, see? And at a certain point I start throwing letters. Anyway, so on YouTube we have like the standard format, let's call it like the 10 minutes, which I think it would be, and you can give me feedback on what you think that might be interesting if we want to change something. But with this 10 minutes format, I think we can focus quite a lot on a single question. And I will try to keep it quite focused, quite to the point without too much rambling. So this one is going to be very focused. Focused. I don't have a single question. So this is what I've been doing for a long time. By the way, I don't know why we have this red thing. But what I would like to start doing also right now is to have some of these live events. And these are going to be much longer format, from 20 minutes to 1 hour. I don't think we will exceed 1 hour because it's tiring. So we will see what we will do with the lives. But what I want to do with these lives is really to have something which allows us to discuss more in details, and also that let us have more of a personal perspective, because the more the more I want to be professional about something, the least I can give you my personal perspective. And I think in many cases it's quite important to get a more personal perspective on some things, because especially if we're talking about, for example, getting into a field, or how is the situation in a specific field, I cannot really give you a scientific answer. I cannot tell you, 20% of people work in this, 10% of people do this, or I could do it, but it will require so much work for me that it doesn't really make sense. And also in many cases, you get a lot of data just by talking to people informally, and you see like what people are thinking about, what jargon they use, a lot of things that maybe don't show up in the scientific literature. So I think these live events, like the one that we have right now, I think they're going to be great for giving you some kind of more unfiltered version of what is like to work in computational social sciences. So this is going to be much long, and maybe I would write personal, but it is more what I was talking about. It's mostly the fact that it doesn't need to be so professional, and also so engaging, because with what I try to do with the YouTube channels is really that I try to make them quite engaging. I try to filter them out, to polish the argument. I rehearse them multiple times. So I think there is quite some interesting aspects here, both for me, because it allows me to express myself on these aspects in a much more natural way. And also I think it's interesting for some of you to get a little more of information of how is behind the scenes. So these are the two main formats that we will have on YouTube, but actually there is a third thing that that I'm working on, and you can get them from the social media or also from the links in the description, and is the podcast. So the podcast is actually something which is between these two. I don't know if this graph makes any sense, but it's something like in between to me, because it's something that is still kind of polished. There is a lot of work on making the podcast and making it in such a way that, it sounds good. You can hear it well, even if, I don't know if you heard the last episode of the podcast, but I still need to learn quite a lot. So I think the ending of many words was cut out. But it's much more polished, for example, than what we will have right now. So it's still going to be focused on something, but in the podcast, I think there is a little more rambling, a little more exploration. so you can get more general information. And so it will depend a lot on what you want to do, and also for me is quite interesting to explore different formats. I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's I don't know, it's interesting to try this format out and see what happens. Sorry, a second. So then let me go back to the main camera. So what we will do today is that we will try to cover some of the main questions that I receive, because also for the fact that I'm on YouTube, many times I receive questions from people which are getting into computational social sciences, and they have a lot of questions on, what to do, how do you get in, what even is computational social science. So what I want to do with this live is to try to cover this topic a little bit. And again, if we have some new questions, just pop them in the chat or write to me, and I might use them for some other lives or some other events like this. So one of the main questions that I get is really from, I think is mostly students, or is mostly from people which are ranging from bachelor students through PhD students, even maybe sometimes even close to the end of their PhD. And the question is, how do I get into computational social sciences? And the answer is quite complex. And indeed, if you're one of the person that ever asked me this question, many times I answer, if I can, with an audio, mostly because it's something which is very long. I don't have a simple answer. Many times I need to discuss quite a lot, because it really depends on the background. So what I will try to do now is to give you some hints on how you can try to figure out a little how you can get in computational social sciences. And I want to do it by trying to figure out first what computational social science is. And since this is a live, we will do a bit of both looking at the formal definitions, but also I can give you some of my personal experience of what computational social science is. And probably you will get a different answer from, if you ask 10 people, you will get 10 different answers of what computational social sciences is. But let's try, and by the way, I did the most confusing thing on earth, that I have two screens at the moment and I didn't put them right. So one is on the left, the other is on the right, but to my computer they are inverted. And I'm just looking for the definition of computational social science, and let's see what comes up. I think I can share, should be able to share my screen. Bam! Is this COS? By the way, COS is the lab where I'm currently working. I think this is COS. Let me see. Yes, ETH Zurich. Bam! Anyway, so I'm not super sure how this AI overview work, but it says, yeah, you can see me well. I have an inception of screens, so sometimes I'm confused. Is an interdisciplinary field that applies computational method to study social phenomena. I would say I agree quite a lot with this definition. It integrates computer science with social sciences like sociology, economics, political science, and psychology, using computational tools to model, simulate, and analyze social behavior and interaction. This field leverages large data set from digital sources like social media and digital archives to understand human behavior and social structures. This is something that, for example, I wouldn't agree with, but at the same time, I've seen people, for example, I would consider agent-based modeling part of computational social sciences. And I know many people actually would do that. At the same time, I've seen people discussing as computational social sciences completely disconnected from agent-based modeling. So yeah, this is one of the important things that I wanted to discuss, that computational social science is so wide, so interdisciplinary, that it's going to be quite diverse. You will get very diverse answer depending on who you ask. There is also some images. What do they show? Oh, is this a video? Ecosystem AI. Let's see. This is COS. Let's see Wikipedia if it offers some nice diagram. What's their definition? Is an interdisciplinary academic subfield concerned with computational approaches to the social sciences. Using data science. Yeah, for example, like they don't talk about big data here. But so yeah, the thing is, the problem with getting into computational social sciences is that there are so many different fields that are related. And let me go back to the iPad, and also let me go back here to the screen so I can see the chat. Okay, it's working fine. Did I click on something? No. Okay, so let's get back here, and can I erase everything? I think so. What did I do? No. I wanted to do this. Delete. Okay, so what do we have here is that we have, we have data science. We have psychology. We have sociology. We have economics. We have political science. I can change color. Maybe I can do like this one green and this one red. And then we have data science, which probably is one of the most important. But, we also have something like physics a little can a little jump in, especially when you have some weird things like social physics, which it's a weird in between. So you have a lot of different fields, and the problem is that many times you will have different projects which include different proportions of this. So a certain project or certain work can have, I don't know, 20% data science, 30% psychology, and I don't know, maybe 50% political science. Also, take into account that many of these fields already overlap by themselves. Maybe people from this field are going to kill me if I say something like this, but for example, social psychology, from what I understand, overlaps partially with sociology. So it's social psychology. And similarly, political psychology overlaps partially with political science. So it's very hard, and also take into account that many times there are communities which sometimes they work on even similar things but from different frameworks. Even if, and maybe the same thing can be mathematically identical, but they consider it very different. Just to give you an example, there is a methodology that I've been developing, which is based on network of attitudes. And this method has a lot in common with what is called belief network analysis, which is mainly developed in sociology. Well, let's give this as a good example. So we have belief network analysis in sociology, and a framework which is not 13, this is a B. And a framework which is very similar is in psychology, and it's called network psychometrics. Network. So for many people, for example, it might be very confusing because they see these two things, and many times people from the two community are working on different things. They don't interact to each other. They treat them as different things, but mathematically they're very, very similarly. They're very similar. So the main difference is actually in what they're studying, because belief network analysis is mostly, belief network analysis is mostly concerned with beliefs, while network psychometrics is mainly concerned with how it's called, like I don't have the right term, but some kind of psychological, not problems. I don't have the term, but for example, measuring depression as a kind of network or something like this. And it's interesting because depending on the field, you might be very confused and think that, you know, these two things are very similar, like there is pretty much no difference. So why I'm rambling so much about this? Wait a second, I'm catching up with the chat. Yeah, I think like for the volume, I realize I have very bad setup because my microphone is here and my iPad is here, so maybe I need to move it, or I need to be a little more aware of where my microphone is. So yeah, also nodes. Nodes, it would be the technical term of how we formalize it, but I was looking for the psychological term. I don't remember how they define this kind of concept, which are more related to psychological diagnosis. No, not even. I don't know. But don't worry too much about it. So the interesting thing here is that a lot depends on where you're coming from, and also what you're interested in. And this is one of the main advices that I give to people, is mostly like, where are you coming from and where would you like to go? So for example, if you're coming from any one of these disciplines here, I would say, oh, sorry, I need to bring my microphone here. If you're coming from any of the disciplines that you see here, even physics, which is a bit funny. Physics is mostly like statistical physics, maybe, but even engineering, you can pull it out some way. Why do I keep doing this? Even engineering, in some cases, can fit. Let me put also engineering. I need to be able to spell out engineering because technically I'm an engineer, so That would be very shameful if I misspelled engineering. So if you're coming from one of these fields, actually there might be not too much to do, because pretty much what you have to find is how do you get into some projects which are still within your domain. Stop with this. They are still within your domain that you can work on, and possibly that can be interesting. So let's say you are working with statistical physics. So you're coming from here and you are interested in maybe psychology, and especially you're interested in opinions. You need to figure out, did I press the, okay. You need to figure out some center of somebody who's working, or that can allow you to work on something like this. So either look for people in physics which are working on modeling of opinion in terms of statistical physics, or try to look for people in psychology that could be interested in this. But in many of these cases, you will find that there are some projects which already cross the path. And so you can find some papers that can already tell you something about this. So you will have some starting point. Oh, by the way, I forgot also there is another big thing, which is complexity, which is, I don't even know where to place it because it's also interdisciplinary. So let me put it, let's use purple. I like purple. Let's put also complexity science. So if you're coming from any of this, it's, I wouldn't say easy, but one of the main tricks is really to try to figure out some articles which are about what you're interested in, and they're coming from your background. This is not always so easy, but it can be done. Eventually try to look for people, for keywords, especially coming from your field. Now, this is the easy way. If you want, you can do it the hard way, like what I did. I don't recommend it because it's a kind of suicide. But what you can do is that you can scrap everything and try to learn things from new. So, for example, what I did was that I was coming from engineering, but I didn't try to do some kind of gradual transition. I directly went with let's just start contacting people in psychology and say like, oh, I have some skills, without doing some intermediate step, because this is something which I think is, oh, and by the way, most important thing, I finished my PhD, quit my job, and I was like, oh, it will work. It worked eventually, but it took way longer than I expected. So if you can do some in-between steps, so do some project with somebody, while maybe you still do your thing. So let's say you are, so if I should talk to myself in the past, I was in engineering and I was doing photonics. I would say keep working in photonics. In the meanwhile, try doing some projects. First of all, start looking some literature in what you are interested in. I was interested in opinions. Oops. And I would say start looking for some literature on opinions and try reaching out to people. That is what I did then, but the problem is that I quit my job in the meanwhile, which wasn't the smartest idea ever. even if it kind of worked, because then I was able to develop a very broad spectrum of skills, which I think is not that common, because what happens is that many times people some way they stay in their niche. So for example, if you are coming from data science, you will remain for so many years a data scientist, and maybe once in a while, or you will do some projects which have application on some other things, but some way you keep doing simply data science, which is fine, but maybe for some people might not be the most interesting thing. So I would say it really depends on you. What is the safest is definitely find your... Oh, and by the way, I did it a lot from the perspective of people coming from this direction, because of course this is my experience. It works also in the other way, like you're coming from psychology and try to study some methodologies. For example, you get network psychometrics, or if I need to plug my method, look for resin, and you try to look for people who might be interested in applying this, so you get some kind of intermediate step where you can also connect with some people from some other fields, and then you use this to get a stronger connection, and then you can see how much you want to go for. If you want to still remain mainly in psychology, or you want to do some crazy things like what I did, and you made a mixture of everything to see what happens. So this is really the basic idea on how to navigate through this system. And let me know if there is anything which is unclear, or if you have any comments on this. To me, really, the best way is, if you are risk averse, really try to stay within your field. Computational social science is so big. There are so many fields which you can get in and still be in your field. Also, another important risk of doing what I did is that some way science doesn't like interdisciplinary. I will have probably an entire video just on this, but this is a big problem. Like science, many times they say, oh, we want interdisciplinary. Oh, I can... Where is it? Where is my... Wait, my mouse goes also on the iPad? Wow. Sorry, I'm getting confused with too many screens and too many things. Also, I'm not used to Mac compatibility. So one of the things is science, many times they say like, oh, we want interdisciplinary, oh, we need to do so much interdisciplinary. No, this is a lie. Don't fall for the lie. I felt for the lie. It's a lie. People don't want interdisciplinary. If you do interdisciplinary, it's going to be so hard, and it's terrible. It's very terrible, because the problem is the system is not built for interdisciplinary. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do anything which looks like interdisciplinary. I will tell you in a moment what you can do instead. But if you want to do what I call true interdisciplinary, you're going to have a hard time. If you are like me, which I don't know exactly why I like, I hate it, but I still like it. But prepare yourself that is going to be very, very hard, because most of the time people won't understand what you're working on. And the problem is the entire system, the entire review system is built on the idea that you need to have reviewers. And these reviewers are the experts. They are the people who need to judge you. So you are writing a paper, there would be reviewers. You are writing a proposal for a grant, there would be reviewers. The reviewers expect to be able to understand what you're doing, and they are the experts. So if they don't understand what you're doing, you will get very poor reviews. And if you get poor reviews, usually your article gets rejected, your proposal doesn't get funded, etc. So it's going to be very hard. So then what can we do? What I learned, which many people do naturally, and I learned it in the worst way possible, which was getting a ton of rejections, is that you do what I like to call semi-interdisciplinary, which is you take the perspective of a field and then you look a little outside the field, but you stay within the boundary of the field. And you still write everything with the jargon of that field. This is why I was telling you, stay within your field if you are not a psycho like me. If you get out of the boundaries of your field, people will have completely different jargon, completely way of thinking, completely different ways of making a hypothesis. And this would be a problem, because when you write an article, you will write it in a way which is going to be a mixture of different styles, and people won't like it, because maybe you get some things from the social sciences, then you get a reviewer from the social sciences, and the reviewer says like, oh, but there was this famous researcher in 1800 which said blah blah blah, which sounds similar, and you didn't cite this person. So if you don't even know the literature, how do you expect to innovate? Be ready, because this is going to happen a lot. And vice versa, you're coming from the social sciences, you do a lot of theory, your paper is full of theory, and people from data science, physics, etc., which I wouldn't say they hate theory, but we don't have theory as they have in the social sciences. They will read the paper, and after 3 pages of theory, they will take your paper and throw it away because they find it disgusting. Like, what is with this thing? Like, you're citing Aristotle. Why are you... Why? Don't cite Aristotle. Just get to the thing. Like, which method are you using? Why are you measuring this thing? What do you get? What is your... your sensitivity analysis? Focus on the method. So yeah, if you do interdisciplinary, that you will see this problem a lot. What I learned to do is mostly that I learned how to make argument for a few communities. For example, at the moment, I think I'm pretty good at making arguments for agent-based modeling community. At the beginning, I couldn't get a single paper published. Now I think I don't want to jinx it, but I think I had 8 papers in a row, which were, pretty much like none of them got rejected. At the beginning, it was impossible for me to get accepted. I was getting rejection after rejection. Because at the beginning, what I was doing, I was trying to do interdisciplinary. So I get a paper in which I have a bit of engineering, I have a bit of psychometrics, I have a bit of this. And the problem, people won't understand it. They will not understand what's going on in my paper. And, if the entire system is built on some experts that need to review your article, if they're not able to review it, the entire system breaks. And unfortunately, is organized in such a way that if it breaks, you will pay the consequences. So what you can do is learn how people speak in different communities, first of all. If you're not confident about that community, find collaborators. There are a lot of people which are interested in interdisciplinary collaborations. And this is one of the tricks. For example, we have one paper with the raising, that method that I was telling you before, what we did is that we published 2 papers, one for a psychological audience, an audience in psychology, an audience of psychologists. Anyway, you understand what I mean. And another paper which is more methodological. And actually this trick allows you to publish more. But the paper in psychology, the first author was a psychologist, because I told him, actually it's Adrian Luders. I have a lot of fun working with him. But the thing is, like, I don't know how to make a compelling argument for psychologists, while his field, so he knows how to do it very well. And vice versa, like I'm the first author, for example, in the article, in the methodological article. So this is something that you can convert, you can pass from something that was very penalizing you to something that actually can empower you to write more articles. And really the trick some way is try to be semi-interdisciplinary. If you're doing a work which spans over many disciplines, break it down. Try to break it down into multiple steps, each one in a different discipline. In this way, you can go on, you can get people to understand what you're doing. Let me draw this. I want to give you a better visualization, because I think this is something that is very important. So by the way, if I get too crazy today is because it was a hard day, and then I also had sport very quickly, and then I'm exhausted at the moment. But the thing is, imagine you have a project and you have psychology, data science, and political science. So your first idea would be like, oh, let's write a paper which mixes a lot of these things. No, don't do it. Terrible idea. I tried. Well, you could get it. Thanks, Katerina. You could get a good paper from that, but it's very, very hard. Most likely you will get rejection after rejection. You will just eat rejections. It would be the most tiring thing in the world. By the way, my first paper was something like this, and I got the rejection on December 24th. I was getting ready for going for Christmas, for the Christmas dinner with my family. I received the notification that I got an email. I forgot to turn off notification, and it was rejection. Thank you, Flaminio. I'm joking, but it was like from Jazz. But impressive that they were still working on December 24, actually. But yeah, if you're an editor, don't send rejection on December 24, please. Just wait. So I was saying, if you have a paper and you have all of these things, instead of writing one paper, the smartest thing is to try to build 3 papers. Don't say always the same thing, because that's unethical and also it doesn't make sense. But try to see, like, if we write something for psychologists, what can be the main idea? And if we go for data science, what would be the main idea? It might be that at a certain point you run out of ideas. In that case, don't write a 3rd paper, because don't just keep spamming the same content. But this is something that can allow you to actually publish in an interdisciplinary way, because now you're publishing across many different disciplines. And this is, for example, what I'm doing. It allows you to publish more and it doesn't penalize you so much. You will still get rejections once in a while because people won't understand it, especially, you know, if you do some very crazy stuff. People don't like you know, I'll tell you, like, we will have an entire video just on this, but science, what is it? Science is not built for big innovation. They have innovation, but they like mild innovation. So keep this in mind, try to innovate a little, and if you have a big innovation across multiple disciplines, just do multiple tiny innovations across different fields. In this way you can build something. Of course, this makes it even harder building an audience because, you know, then you reach some people in psychology, you reach people in sociology, and it's a mess. But, you know, if you're watching this video, probably is because you are interested in some kind of interdisciplinary. So yes, this is the basic idea. I see we already made 45 minutes. I speak too much. I didn't expect it to speak so much. Yeah. So, thank you very much for watching. I might make more lives, but again, I think we will keep it for when we have some big topics that we want to discuss. And I think I will change the title of this live. I think it can be something like how to publish in computational social science. I think probably would be more fitting. But anyway, if you have any question, let me know in the comments. And yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and I will see you soon. I have a video which I'm preparing. In case you didn't know, one of our paper got hijacked, and it was associated with some kind of fake news. It's not completely fake, but they kind of misrepresented the main point of the article. So I'm making a video out of that. So see you soon. Let me know if you have any comments or ideas, and yeah, keep doing your work, and see you soon. Bye bye.